Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Kisma, and today's episode is the signs of depression and what you need to know. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Well, hello, Nick.
Hello there, Kisma.
Today we're talking about depression.
Yeah, oddly, this is a
got
topic.
A little sad.
I need to get sad.
Okay.
This is actually one of my favorite topics to talk about.
Well, you work with people a lot on depression, so I'm excited to look at this from an energetic perspective, mindset, etc. And just, we're recording this in the middle of quarantine.
Right.
From the COVID-19, for those of you that are listening, decades back. We are in quarantine. We are recording a podcast as we're in stay-at-home shelter, stay-at-home, the whole thing. It's just been very bizarre, the whole coronavirus thing. And I think this is the first week for me. I'm like, wait, what day is it? Because I've been working, from home full on with clients. But this week I was like, what day is it? I don't know what day it is.
Yeah.
I got out of sync a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, depression's a really big deal. And it's not a new thing.
For sure.
The ancient Greeks called it black bile.
Ooh, those Greeks.
Right. And then, it's melancholia, and it's had all these different names through the ages. And it's something that happens with people.
It does.
To get into a depressed state. And it's huge. I think the last thing I looked at, there's a 1 in 6 chance that you'll deal with this at some point in a significant way in your lifetime. It's that prevalent. And I think a lot of the times it doesn't look or feel or sound like what we think it's supposed to, or what we think that is. Mainly, I think because of the label itself, which is something I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And so we're like, no, that couldn't be me. That was definitely me, those years ago when I was just on my couch, stuck on the couch, just binge watching show after show after show, and really not able. I didn't know at this time that was called depression.
Yeah.
But I was definitely in a depression.
It's easy to label something like that. Oh, you're being irresponsible. You're lazy.
Yeah.
Right. It's quick to go to that.
You're negative. That was something that I'd go to, just a really, really negative in my mind and my thoughts, and self-defeating and all that kind of stuff. For me, I didn't let a lot of that bleed out, but I know the people that were close to me knew. We didn't really talk about it necessarily because it's hard to talk about sometimes. It's hard to describe it when you're in it, but the truth of the matter is I was depressed.
Yeah.
And I was actually depressed for a lot longer than I thought that I was. And it took me quite a while to really dig out of that, to really get back into a good flow. And that was with great teaching and even being surrounded with really great people. I can only imagine, certainly for some of the people I've worked with that, they just happened to find me and find their way out, but they have nobody else in their life that would be able to help with that. So I say all of that really just to invite you to listen to this episode with an open mind, and not to put a label on it, but to say, okay, where might I be slipping into some depressive states?
I think that's an important distinction because I know there's different grades of depression, and a depressed state is something that one might be going in and out of. But if there's not the awareness, if there's not support, it can go into a full-blown depression.
Right. When you're really in there, and to the point where you'd be diagnosed, clinically depressed.
Right.
And just to make it clear for our listeners, we're not doctors. We're not diagnosing anybody. We're approaching this from a little bit different perspective than a clinical perspective. So please understand that the language might be a little bit different. And our approach and perspective on it is likely very different. Please consult your physician, blah, blah, blah.
Don't go off your meds if you're on meds.
That's right.
Take care of yourself.
All of those things. So that's our disclaimer. But back to that with the labels, when the first thing that I have somebody do is take the Ultimate Life Tool.
Great tool. Great assessment.
Because with the assessment, depression will show up in some specific ways on that. And I've had clients who have bought into that label and no, I'm depressed. I'm like, well, wait a second. Like, let's examine what that label means, because it doesn't show up in your results the way that it would show up in any of the variations that it would show up. So let's talk about what's really going on. And inevitably, this is the most fascinating thing. It's like such an incredible tool for that, because inevitably we discover the things that are making them feel that way, but is not like really like a true depressive state, because we can all feel sad and we can all feel down and depleted.
We can feel sorry for ourselves.
Right.
We can go into we can be self-absorbed. And for those of you that have done the Ultimate Life Tool, you know what we're referring to. If you haven't and you're interested, there is a link in the show notes to go to. It's a fascinating tool. Nick will take you through the assessment.
Yeah. The link is, I'll just give it to you as well. We'll put it in the notes, but it's nickhansinger.com/know yourself. Because it's really about getting to know yourself.
Right.
So taking the label off, like even if you have been diagnosed clinically depressed, is start to like loosen the screws on that label to say, okay, I'm probably not 100% depressed all the time. There's a grade and there's a range that I'm moving through here. And it's helpful to see that in a more subtle way. Like one of the things that I've seen that labels do that are incredibly destructive is like, that's the thing, that's the answer, that's what it is all the time. And we're human beings. Like we don't operate like that. We move through different grades of it, different phases of it. And when you have a higher level of discernment, you get a better feel for the rhythm.
Right.
It's really hard to tell sometimes. Like when you're glued, this is what it was like for me. When I was glued to the couch, stuck in that place, and I can tell you a little bit about what was going on in my head at the time too, but stuck in that place, it's like there's the grades are real small. It's a real subtle between like, I think I'm going to get up and, get some more chips, or I'm going to click the button to watch the next one, even though I know that's the worst thing I can do right now.
It's that, and that's such a warning sign if you just can't seem to pull yourself out of it.
Right.
Even though your conscious mind is saying, not a great idea, not the best, you just move forward with it.
That's right. And that's the difference between anxiety and depression. Like anxiety, they often go together hand in hand for people. Like they'll bounce from one to the other, but anxiety is like, there's energy to work with and you can kind of find it and follow
more active, right?
Right. And so there's something to be said about that where it's a little bit, it's just a different game, but to find your way to like stabilize and get out of the anxious states and things like that. With depression, it can be hard to find the energy sometimes, it's just, you're really
very heavy
defeated.
And very stuck.
That's right. So having a more subtle approach to it to find like, okay, like where is my energy? Like where can I use what I have to get something moving? Right. Because the inertia sets in and overcoming the inertia is one of the initial challenges.
So when you work with somebody in healing anxiety, healing for anxiety or depression, how do you approach it? There must be a different approach.
There is a very different approach. Yeah. Anxiety has a lot to do with finding, taking and harnessing the energy and directing it in a really positive way.
Because there is
more productive way, I think is a more productive way is a better way to put it. With depression, particularly when somebody's like having a tough time finding the energy and the motivation to do anything, it's really about small steps. So what are the small things that they can do and complete and keep active in some way? Right. So the exercises that I teach in Energy Mastery are really, really important. Certainly having somebody have those skills is a game changer, because it's basically your get out of jail free card for when your head starts doing all that weird stuff. And when you start to catch yourself slipping into that, you have a direct way out of it. And cleaning up the energy, that's another tricky part about the depressive state, is that the energy gets, not only is it congested, but it gets much more thick and built up. And so it can feel hard to break free from that. Mm-hmm. And when you have those tools to really clean up in a very thorough way, everything that's going on in the system and systematically, then you have a way to release that, like to get, and it'll move. And then you have a little bit more to work with. And then you take the next step, right?
Yeah. And so from the energy perspective of, say, the chakra system that you work on, where would you start? Or does it depend on each person?
Kind of depends on each person. There's like basically the biggest one for everybody is solar plexus. Not only because it is a clearinghouse for lower emotion and gets congested super, super easily just by living life, you know, but also because all of your major organs are right there.
Right.
And if you think about a chakra kind of as an organ that lives outside the body, like, okay, well, that chakra is responsible for all those organs. And like, there's so many major organs right there. So when that particular place gets really bunged up, then that's a technical term, bunged up.
I'm sure I know that term, but okay.
then it can really have an impact physically very, very quickly.
Okay. Yeah. So you start there. So for someone who is tiptoeing in the state of depression, like you mentioned, in and out, and then they start to be in more, what do you recommend for them to look at, to really inspire to take a different action or have a different thought around it?
Well, it's kind of an interesting dance, because one of the things that can be really helpful is system and routine, right? To stay in motion. But you get too much of that and it becomes robotic, and then everything's freaking depressing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just,
there's no joy.
Yeah. There's no joy in it. It's just, you're doing things by rote, which if you're, depending on how deep you are into it, that can actually be your middle ground, or your higher ground is like, okay, well, I'm going to be consistent with some actions, and maybe it feels lifeless, which is something a lot of people experience on medication. But at least I'm moving, which is actually a level up from being totally incapacitated. But if somebody's kind of skirting on that, it's definitely keeping in motion, keeping your body active. And then to me, creativity and creative action is one of the things that really adds some kind of spark to it. And I don't know what, like that's part of the conversation when I'm working with somebody. It's like, well, what's your thing? What lights you up? Like, go do that.
Yeah. I think again, as you were talking, a depressive state, depression seems to be the absence of joy. It seems like joy just sinks out of our lives in that state.
Yeah.
And creativity, I think we're noticing now as we're quarantining, there is more time to be creative for a lot of people, to find something to, whether it's like Marie Kondoing your closet like you did, or coloring like we have Lovelines coloring things, or to take a walk in nature, something. I think when the human becomes creative, there's at least a little spark of joy that lights up.
Yeah.
And as we know from the spiritual perspective, if we can focus on a spark of light and we focus on that, it really does become a glow. It takes on a bigger glow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, if you're not connected to any kind of creativity, then it's like, just connect to the thing that brings you up.
That lights you up.
Yeah. Like whatever that is, you can go to a museum, you can go see a concert, you can, like you said, just take a walk in nature, you can color, you can, get a great coloring book, Lovelines stuff is amazing for that. There's all sorts of different things that you can try, and some of them might work for you and some of them might not, just try, you're not going to do it wrong. Just try something and keep following it, and you'll find a way through it. If you're a creative person, and this is really common, actually, if you're creative and you rely on your creativity, you can still get depressed. And you can get depressed around your art, right? I remember that with me, like just feeling really stuck. Enough. Yeah, like I had this stuff in my head, like I wanted to get it out. I wanted to play a certain way. I wanted to like create and write some music. And I just I was so depressed and just not really capable of getting that out. So I had to go do something different. Like the last thing that was going to help me was just sit down and bang my head against the wall.
Right. So you had to go bowling, or you had to go run, or you had to
Right. I had to get physically active. That was really helpful for me. And then one of my favorite things to do was to just go to the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Arts, and just look at great art. And inevitably, it would spark ideas for me. Reading kinda, but not so much for me. TV's dangerous. Like if you watch something that really engages you, that's creatively done, it can, but it's just so easy to get sucked into it. So it's not like a go-to that I really recommend for people, because it's a dangerous trap.
Right. I want to know more from your perspective about moving the body. What does that do, and why is that important for someone who has depression, is in a depressed state, is feeling like they're falling? What does moving the body do to the energy in the field?
Well, okay. This is thanks for asking this, because it is important to kind of understand people can be depressed and still be very physically active. So just because you're not as active doesn't mean that you can't have this. Typically, one of the things that I see is just not moving enough. And that's why this is an important part of the conversation. So you spend a lot of time sedentary, and if people happen to have a job, where they're working inside, they're under unnatural light, like they're not getting natural light. And a lot of people's work is a lot of sitting and repetitive motions all day long.
Right.
Whether or not they're interacting creatively in their brain or not, it's a lot of rote kind of stuff. So what that does physically is you have all these, not only do you have the chakra system, you have all of these meridians in your body. You have a very intricate energy system that's fueling your body and moving it. And when your body doesn't really move, then those things tend to get stuck. It's really like a hose or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, I haven't run water through it for a long, long time, and now it's got like all this gunk in it.
Right.
Okay. Well, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then also, okay, well, it's had a kink in it. If you're sitting,
right, you can't flow.
Your hips aren't really moving at all. Like they're in one stationary position. So, okay. So now you've had a kink in the hose for that whole time.
Right.
Tricky.
It makes sense.
Right. To get that. So it helps. It gets everything moving as well. So the stuck things can start to flush out, and it brings your energy up, depending on the kind of, workout that you do or the kind of exercise. It can really increase endorphins too, which will give you a nice little lift. Right.
Well, I know from our days of teaching yoga that yoga is an amazing practice for depression. A lot of the meridians and the twists and the opening of, and in and of itself, it will do something for the chakra system, not complete unless it depends on the practice. But I do believe there's more energetic technology that's needed. But for somebody who might be a runner and yet they're feeling the slump, try yoga.
That's right.
Do something different. Even those twists open up something differently. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it seems like it's like being able to find a compelling reason. And this is where I think we have to really dive deep into our hearts for finding the compelling reason why we would choose to keep moving forward.
That is the big thing, right? So when I work with people, like finding that is a very, very important part of it. Some people have no idea what it is. And expert tip, it's not as hard to find as you think, right? It's probably hiding in plain sight, but that's one of the things that I'm good at, that is very, very important piece for long lasting sustainability is connecting with whatever that thing is. And the second part of it is taking action on it.
Yes.
Because I have some people who have been very, very depressed. They know what they want to be doing, but they haven't been taking action on it for whatever reason, that was kind of more where I was. Like I had all these things that I wanted to do, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't get myself off the couch to do any of it. Yeah. And so that sounds more like the criticism in the head, like I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Like, what's wrong with you? Right. I should be able to solve this on my own. Like, why am I not motivated? Why am I so negative? And then if you happen to be, quote unquote negative around other people, like people have very low tolerance for that, especially in the United States. Yeah. So it's really hard to talk about. Yeah. And they don't understand, like they'll try to have you on the bright side, like, well, look at all your blessings, practice some gratitude. It's like, well, screw your gratitude, like I'm struggling here, man. Yeah. But it can leave a person feeling really misunderstood.
Yeah. Not heard.
And very alone.
Yeah. Dismissed.
Right. And so it's not to say that the advice is wrong. It just is maybe a little misguided in really understanding where a person can go inside themselves. Like you've no idea the level of self-criticism and blame and disappointment that is going on inside of them and what they're doing to themselves in their own head.
Right.
You know, if you heard that conversation, you would approach it with a really different,
delicate.
Yeah, really different mindset.
This is such an important conversation. On one hand, you know, I will work with a lot of clients on the story they keep repeating and telling themselves. And this is something as humans we really want to look at. What is the story that we're living from that is not really the truth? Even if it has occurred in the past. You know, there's been an event, I forget who I was talking with today or yesterday, was like, well, I am this, you know, it's like, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. Yeah. Well, maybe at one point that person wasn't good at it. Yet if we keep telling ourselves that, we don't take any action to better that skill or whatever it is, it really locks in. So I think there's a place where we will live through a story, and then that can actually start to become this very thick thought flow and a way of being habitual. And all of a sudden we're sliding down the slope into a depressed state. On the other hand, once one is in that depressed state, it doesn't really benefit the person to hear, well, you're just living a story, because they're so in it.
Yeah.
So when you work with somebody, maybe this is a repetitive question, where do you get them out of that? What do you do to jar them out of that story that is so sticky? It's become their reality.
What I can say is that when people listen to me, they might have a misunderstanding that, you know, because I'm pretty like light, I'm like to have fun, you know, and things like that. They might not realize the level of care and skill that I bring into a conversation like that. And I've had a lot of people tell me this. They're like, I see your video, like I really enjoy your videos, and I love listening to you on the podcast. When we sat down for our session, it took me a second to adapt. Like it was a very different version of you, and like I knew it was you. Like you weren't putting on an air, but it's a really different thing. So I bring to those kind of conversations a great level of skill and care, and a lot of experience with it too. So it is kind of a delicate thing. I say that to caution people. It's not like don't help, but it's like be mindful of how you try to help other people.
Right.
Out of these things, because it can be really sticky, because it's a very fine line between telling somebody the truth and helping and giving them a way out, and victim blaming, and shaming them for feeling the way that they're feeling, or you know, you're just telling yourself a story. It's like, well, thanks Einstein, you know, thanks Freud. Like that's not really helpful for me.
Right.
So what I really try to work with there is a true acceptance for exactly where they are. Like for me as the practitioner, as the healer in that situation, it's a real receptivity. Like one thing that you will never find with me in a session is judgment and criticism. I don't do it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the truth.
Helpful. Right.
You know, you might,
and some people might take that as a judgment and criticism.
They don't always like it. I can say that for sure. But honestly speaking, I don't think I've ever had anybody tell me that I'm being judgmental and like they know, you know, and a little bit of it is timing and, you know, building the rapport.
Right.
I try to build a rapport as quickly as possible so that we can get to those things. But a lot of times there's just surface level stuff to clean up. And a little bit of, you know, just building that up so that when I can tell them, you know, what's, you know, and invite with some new questions into a new part of the conversation, that they're willing to go there with me. And then things start to move that much faster.
There's always an opening. I think that's, you know, just to kind of come full circle. For anyone struggling now in the quarantine, for anyone who's listening, you know, down the road, or you reflect into the past, there is an opening. There is a way out, because just like any problem, there's always a solution. And perhaps, you know, if one is really struggling to know, again, if we're going to bring in the universal laws for healing, the law of polarity, the exact opposite exists. We have to have a willingness to see it or receive it or stick our big toe in it or contemplate it. You know, any of those are going to open it up a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the greatest piece is the questions that get asked that open up new parts of the conversation, new areas to explore. And all of those little things, they start to loosen it. It's like it can be like a jar that's just like the top's really, really stuck on there. And then it starts to loosen a little bit and then it comes free and it's like, oh yeah.
Right.
You know, it's a whole different world and you can be into that, and helping a person find their way from one state to another. Like in myself, I know that they always exist together because of that law of polarity. But helping another person to cross that bridge, well, that's another story.
Yeah.
You know, and that's important.
Yeah. So a couple of tips before we leave that you want to share from your perspective for anyone out there struggling, kind of leaning into the struggle, not, in and out, or just what can people do right now?
Yeah. Well, the first is to look, hiding is one of the first things that starts to show up for people.
Yeah.
It's like hiding away.
We are now in quarantine.
Withdrawing.
Like it's by law. We got to hide.
Yeah.
Real helpful, guys. No, yeah. I know we have to. It's serious business here.
It is. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like there's a difference between like being in quarantine and hiding out.
And hiding for sure. We can open our windows. We can go take walks around the neighborhood and it's important.
Yeah. It's more of like it's hiding from your life.
Yeah.
It's really and hiding from yourself.
Yeah.
And it's turning in on yourself in a way that it can be really destructive. And because it is hard to talk about people, like it is very easy to be misunderstood. It's easy to be judged about it. So to counteract that is talk to somebody, right? Just choose who you talk to.
Right.
That's important. Like go to somebody a trusted friend who will listen to you.
What is a really good way to set up that conversation?
Hey, that's an excellent question. Simple's better. And it's letting them know, take all the pressure off of them and just let them know that you just need an ear.
That's great.
Take the pressure off of them.
I don't need fixed. I just need to talk.
Because if you don't do that, they care about you a lot and they will try to start to fix you.
Yeah.
And that's where all the bad advice comes out. Just be grateful for this. Look at your life. Like you shouldn't feel that way. Like you've got all these great things. It's dude, yeah, but I'm still feeling this way. So when you take all that pressure off, then you can let them just be in listening mode. It takes so much pressure off of them. And then it kind of sidesteps some of that stuff that they might do instinctively to just try to help because they care about you.
Right. I want to interject. If you happen to be on the other side of that and you're the person that someone says, hey, I just need an ear. I feel one of the best things after the person shares is to really hold space, really listen, thank them for sharing. And then a simple question of what can I do right now to support you or to help you feel better?
Right.
And they might not know, but just by asking, is there something I can do? What can I do? Not telling them what to do, but is there something I can do right now?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a serious conversation, and you can approach it if you're depressed and, you kind of need to just take the pressure off and make it lighthearted or whatever. Like it's still a serious conversation. But yeah, that offer of help. And more times than not, they'll just say, man, just talking to you and having you listen like that made all the difference in the world. Thank you. Sometimes they'll make an ask and that's cool too. Yeah. Just do what you can. So the hiding thing, like don't hide, find somebody to talk to, reach out to one of us. Well, I wanted to share that with Nick's, the Ultimate Life Tool. There's a couple different ways and he is very skilled. So if you feel like you're struggling, you need some extra help, go to nickhansinger.com/know thyself. Know yourself.
Know yourself. Know yourself. There'll be an option to take the Ultimate Life Tool. There'll be an option to set up also a session with Nick and to dive in and do some healing right away.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I treat it. I want the assessment because I want to see what's really going on. That's helpful for me to speed up the whole process. And then we definitely we talk about it, but we definitely do some healing through that and make sure you walk away with some really good tools and understandings that are going to help you stay the course.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share?
Well, with the self-criticism, lots and lots of times it destroys your confidence. And so one way to kind of start to build that back up is to do some little things, like accomplish some little tasks,
Right.
Small as they might be, clean out a sock drawer, great. That's a great start, and then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And when you get into some of those, it'll build up a little bit more confidence. You'll feel like you did something, and it'll start to, it's not all the time forever solution for the voices in the head. Like that much I can guarantee, but I can tell you that it will help to get things moving.
Yeah,
like if you're
that's
stuck,
great.
like accomplishing some little things.
The brain does like when we complete things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the bottle of wine, everyone, but it's like
Yeah.
little things. The brain likes it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually good for both anxiety and depression, because anxiety, you start to spin out and it's like, okay, close the loop. And for depression, it helps you to get moving.
Yeah.
Right. And preferably doing that towards some sort of end that will serve you, but heck, clean out your sock drawer, whatever, you know. That's a big one. Then the last one I would say is to what you said earlier, Kisma, with the labels and the stories. Then okay, I have this is my all the time thing that's never changing, right? Like, cause I have this label, or this is just the way I am. The labels we put on ourselves and the labels that we've, others have put on us and that we've allowed others to put on us.
Right.
Examine that.
Yeah.
Like, have a look.
Yeah.
And just see, what that is.
Is that really true?
Yeah.
Forever true. Is that really forever true? Just a simple question.
Right. And I wonder if there might be, this is the question of questions, is I wonder what might be a higher truth.
Oh, that's so good.
Conversation for another time.
Yeah.
And then the bonus one is go find something creative to do.
Yeah.
Something fun. Fun looks different on different people. So it's not like zippity doo dah, rolling in the picnic
I'm
in
not
the
going to be
grass.
skydiving anytime soon.
Right. But go find something that lights you up a bit, something creative, and let that kind of break up some of the energy and get you back into a flow.
Yeah. So good. Well, I have an illuminated thought.
I would love to hear it. Thank you. Cause I don't have one.
There's always a higher truth.
There is always a
like
higher
that.
truth.
If that's not something to reach for, that gives me chills. There's always a higher truth. And do reach out if you need some support. I can like Nick's amazing with this. It's one of his really beautiful skills. So it's an interesting time we're in. It's well worth it to invest in yourself for some extra care should you need. And as well, if you have any questions, shares, email
hello@illuminationpodcast.com.
Yeah, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think.
From our quarantine selves to your quarantine selves, we are sending you so much love, light, and power.
Peace.
Namaste. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.